It's January the 15th, 1986. Despite the freezing weather outside, there is a warm air of anticipation inside. The greatest ship afloat is ready to sail. The one and only QE2 is about to commence her 1986 world cruise. Ahead lie 36 ports spread around the continents of the world. The last-minute planning is completed, and we can put the day-to-day worries and problems behind us. It's time to relax. Let the professionals take over. It's time to let the famous hospitality of Cunard Line work its wonders.
To advise all persons not sailing in Queen Elizabeth II that they should proceed ashore immediately, as the gangway is about to be landed.
Captain Lawrence Bortet and his crew are ready. Ahead lies the whole world, and the superb QE2 will take us round in comfort and luxury. Port Lauderdale, and time to pick up some more passengers and the first of the really warm weather. Onwards to Costa Rica, the land of eternal spring, and the QE2 is warmly welcomed on her maiden arrival to the port city of Puerto Limón. But our journey takes us through breathtaking scenery of this land discovered by Columbus in 1502, to the country's capital, San Jose. There's only one way to travel back to the port, and that's by vintage train, and en route be enthralled by the dramatic landscape, passing lush valleys, rivers, towering peaks, mountain streams and waterfalls. Breathtaking. In the early hours of the morning, the QE2 commences her transit of the Panama Canal, one of the greatest man-made marvels of the world. After leaving Gatun Lock, the Queen passes through the Gatun Lake and Gaillard Cut and heads towards the Pedro Miguel Lock. During the transit of the canal, the ship is raised and lowered 85 feet through a complex series of locks to huge inland lakes and narrow channels before descending to the Pacific Ocean. The QE2 will be guided through the locks by small but very powerful mechanical mules. Being the largest passenger vessel to transit the Panama Canal, the QE2 pays the highest toll, well over $100,000. The bridge of the QE2 houses the primary navigational controls, and the ship has some of the most sophisticated equipment aboard any liner at sea. The sextant, which enables us to establish the ship's position, but nowadays we rely on the satellite navigator, which can pinpoint the ship in any weather condition to within a couple of hundred feet. Not what you expect, but this is the ship's steering wheel. The telegraph on the bridge signals speed and direction to the turbine control room where action is taken. The main control room, where the engineers monitor the status of all the machinery. QE2's main service speed is 28.5 knots. And in this age of computers, the main control room has been fitted with a highly sophisticated monitoring system, which at the touch of a button displays over 400 temperature and pressure readings throughout the ship, as well as any alarm conditions. The turbo alternators, which are driven by steam turbines to generate the electricity for the ship. These boilers, at QE2's maximum speed, consume 550 tons of fuel per day, about $28 million worth per annum. One of the two shafts that drive each of the two 36-ton propellers. The safety control room, which monitors all the ship's safety systems, a vital link in the chain of command. Crossing the equator, and it's time for the Neptune ceremony. This age-old seafaring tradition initiates those passengers that are crossing the equator for the first time, though I suspect some of them wish that they hadn't. However, they enjoyed it, and so did we. The Queen docks in Callao to a warm maiden arrival reception in Peru, with Lima, the city of kings, only 8 miles away, and the chance to discover not only the mystical sights of this beautifully situated city, but a chance to explore the remains of ancient Incan civilizations like Machu Picchu, the final citadel of the Incas, Lake Titicaca, the highest navigable lake on earth, the ruins of Pachacamac, plazas, convents, churches, even bull rings, or find beautiful Peruvian alpaca rugs and sweaters amongst other treasures. Once again on board QE2, and another historical event takes place as Captain Portet meets the young Peruvian president, and afterwards is treated to a local show in the Double Down Room. QE2's next maiden arrival is to the bustling seaport of Valparaiso, and our first stop in Chile. On our visit to this country of Latin and European cultures, we have the chance to see Santiago, the capital, the presidential palace, the colonial buildings at Plaza del Armas, and of course the fabulous seaside resort of Vina del Mar, Chile's Riviera playground. Our next maiden arrival in Chile is Puerto Montt, the gateway to the rugged Patagonia region. Some of the many sights include Lake Yankee Way, Mount Osorno, an 8,500 feet Fuji-like volcano, the turbulent rapids and falls of Petrohue, placid Lake Todos los Santos, and Frutelar, well known for the Alpine and Germanic style of architecture, and of course the natural beauty of the countryside of the Chilean Lake District. QE2 sails through the Strait of Magellan for the first time and once again into the history books. This 16-hour transit of 350 miles takes us past glaciers, snow-capped mountains and Tierra del Fuego. Whilst at sea, there is time to maybe learn about computers in the well-equipped Computer Learning Centre. Friendly, informal tuition is always available, and proved to be very popular. Then again, it's very pleasant just to walk round the superb public rooms on the QE2. There's always something to look at, and there's always something going on. Traditionally, at the beginning of the voyage is held the captain's reception, but on the World Cruise we welcome fellow passengers joining the ship at various major ports, so the captain's cocktail party has become a firm favourite. Uruguay and Montevideo, the vacation haven for the rich. La Creta, a bronze masterpiece commemorating Uruguay's pioneers in the form of oxen and wagons. The fashionable resort of Punta del Este, where the South American sophisticates flock to enjoy the climate and relax. In the city of Montevideo, the statue of General Artigas, father of modern Uruguay. The classic car collector's dream, and the incredible homes in styles from all around the world. Let's not forget miles and miles of beautiful beaches. On to Brazil, and our second port of call is Rio de Janeiro, birthplace of the samba, the girls from Ipanema, Copacabana Beach, panoramic views from Sugarloaf Mountain, accessible by cable car. Corcovado, the world-famous statue of Christ, 124 feet high and dominating the city below. Sensational views. And of course, we were lucky. This is carnival time, when the samba schools of Rio show their creations, costumes and floats to an excited and enthusiastic mass of revellers. How could we ever forget the superb food and beautiful surroundings of the magnificent restaurants? Some of the selections we could have were breakfast in bed or in the restaurant, the mid-morning bouillon on deck, or coffee in the lounge, luncheon buffet in the Magrodome Centre, or a hamburger on deck, afternoon tea and cakes in the Queen's Room, or cocktail canopies before dinner. The superb menus every night in one of the 4 magnificent restaurants, like the tables of the world and its brilliant themes of different international sections. Specialty chefs were flown in at various ports to give us a wider selection and choice. the sheer luxury of the Queen's Grill, which certainly merits the award of 5 stars plus from Fielding's Worldwide Cruises. The superb wine cellar, the best afloat and the envy of all other ships. Naturally, the connoisseur is catered for as well as ordinary palates. Caviar and the Columbia restaurant with its air of grace. Speciality dishes can be ordered in advance on most nights, and the head waiters serve them with great style and finesse. The famous midnight buffet. How we marvelled at the hours and hours of work that went into the preparation. It seemed such a pity to disturb it, but when we did, it was well worth it. After following Vasco da Gama's route across the South Atlantic, QE2 arrives at Cape Town, South Africa, and berths majestically below the stunning contrast of Table Mountain, which dominates the landscape. A special Concorde flight with some of our passengers arrives. Today's itinerary will take us into the mountainous countryside of Paarl and Stellenbosch, South Africa's wine-growing district, and then a ride by cable car to the top of Table Mountain. The beaches of Clifton and the Houses of Parliament, Green Market Square, and the Dutch influence abounds everywhere. Onwards to Durban and the famous Zulu dances in the Valley of 1,000 Hills. Mombasa and Kenya. Words cannot describe the remarkable experience of a proper safari in Africa. QE2 docks in the port of Mombasa in Kenya, which is just a coach ride into some of the world's greatest game reserves. So it's off on our Volkswagens and minibuses with detachable roofs and into the African game parks to see elephants, cheetah, lions, zebra, and a multitude of game, as well as the Maasai tribe. Time to save a life at sea. Liska and Lesser played for us on deck whilst we had more food. Hamburgers this time. Delicious. A quick walk round deck, and then on to table tennis, which seemed to get very competitive, as did the putting and golf. At least if you missed, you can blame the gentle roll of the ship. For the more energetic, paddle tennis. It was fascinating to watch the Magradome opening and shutting. It shows just how versatile the Club Lido can be by day or night. At some ports, we used the very efficient ship's launches, Alpha and Beta. The service ran continuously all day, and the sailors that manned them seemed to enjoy the constant toing and froing of the passengers. Here we are at Seychelles, an island which time has passed by, 1,000 miles out in the Indian Ocean from the shores of Africa. Time to laze in the glorious sunshine of unspoilt beaches, swim in refreshing seas, or just take in the natural beauty of this unhurried island, unique by 1,000 miles. Whilst on board, our cabin became a second home, whether it was on foredeck, one deck, or even the Queen Mary suite. At all times, the service and attention to detail was superb. A real treat was to have breakfast in bed. Behind the scenes, the laundry cleaned literally thousands of items every day of the week. We never did find out who cleaned those shoes. The arrival in Karachi was most unusual. The custom of throwing flower petals over passengers was a marvellous, innovative welcome. The military band played stirring music, and it was a memorable morning. The QE2's maiden arrival sees her berthing in one of the Indian subcontinent's finest natural harbours. Karachi is Pakistan's largest and most populous city, full of colourful contrasts, narrow alleys and wide avenues. In this city, the sights are fascinating. Used camel lots, masses of laundry washing in primitive trenches, camel rides on the beaches, snake charmers, camels and oxen pulling their loads through the city's busy centre, and a multitude of other sights, sounds and aromas. India and the Taj Mahal, one of the 7 wonders of the world and probably the greatest testament to love ever built. In contrast to the tranquility of this magnificent monument, the QE2 docks in Bombay, city of teeming millions and the gateway to India. There on the shore of the Arabian Sea stands the colossal archway built to commemorate the visit of King George V and Queen Mary in 1911. This city is in a country populated by about 800 million people. It is India's industrial and business centre with a cosmopolitan cross-section of ethnic groups, languages and beliefs, of which over 80% of the people of India are Hindu. Truly a country of such magnitude that this brief visit can only excite the imagination and make you want to go back again. Another innovation aboard QE2 is the large health spa run by the famous Golden Door of California. Aerobics and water exercises certainly help to get rid of some of those extra pounds gained through eating the marvellous food. The exercise machines were in constant use. Then it was time for a relaxing sauna or maybe a massage. The pilot comes on board to guide the QE2 into the port of Colombo, Sri Lanka. Our first trip ashore must be to the ancient city of Kandy and the sacred temple of the tooth. Here, for a few cents, the local snake charmer will put on a roadside show. This lush tropical island hangs like a teardrop over the Indian Ocean. The rivers and streams, although picturesque, are a practical means of washing and bathing for local inhabitants. The Elephant Training School is a popular place to visit on the road to Colombo, where the QE2 is docked. Passing the miles of golden, sandy beaches on the road to Bentota, the fishermen can be seen casting their nets and lines in a way that they have done for hundreds of years. An awesome highlight is a trip to the rock fortress of Sigiriya, towering 10 stories into the air. Then on to the fascinating sculptures at Polonnaruwa. Sit back and relax, as the trishaw, used by locals and tourists alike, is a convenient way to take in the scenery of this bustling city as you amble slowly along. Penang, our first port of call in Malaysia, also known as the Pearl of the Orient. A tropical paradise of swaying palms, beautiful beaches, clear blue waters and friendly people. The Snake Temple, perhaps the only one of its kind in the world. Here live and poisonous snakes like the pit viper curl among the twigs and carvings of the temple edifices. The adventurous can get very close to them. A quiet, calm sea saw our arrival in Singapore. The staff captain, Roland Hazel, and of course Captain Portet were on the bridge to see us safely into port once again. Singapore, also known as Lion City, 250 square miles of island linked by a causeway to Malaysia. This modern miracle of Asia is fast becoming one of the greatest trading centres of the world. The radio room, where all the receivers, teleprinters, ComSat terminal, computers and word processors are housed. The satellite terminal, through which telexes and data from the ship to Cunard's offices in Southampton and New York, and also enables us to relay messages in just a few short minutes. Through the telephone operator on the ship, passengers can be connected anywhere in the world using a direct dial. This computer receives news and information direct from England and can relay the whole ship's newspaper in a little over 5 minutes. Pattaya, Thailand, and the QE2 anchors off the seaside resort of Pattaya, which is a 3-hour drive to Bangkok, the capital. This bustling little seaside town is famous for the many bars and massage parlours. Also, oil paintings which can be finished overnight from your photographs. The results are extremely good. Experience the cultures of Thailand, from dancers to Thai boxing. A chance to be stepped on, by a full-grown elephant. At a nearby elephant kraal, they put on a performance of their daily tasks. Inland and Bangkok, the Royal Palace Gardens, probably one of the most splendid examples of architecture, beauty and colour in the Far East. Certainly a memory that will remain with us for years to come. Some of the many sights to see must include the Marble Temple, the Golden Buddha, 5.5 tons of solid gold. The Temple of the Dawn, overlooking the banks of the Chao Phraya River. Outside of Bangkok, at Damuan Saduk, is a floating market, or klongs as they are known. Sadly, a way of life that is gradually disappearing from Thailand. Onwards to Hong Kong, and here we have a chance to visit China and one of the 7 wonders of the world, the Great Wall, the only man-made structure on this planet that is visible from space by the naked eye. An amazing achievement. On this short excursion into the People's Republic of China, another fascinating place to visit is Forbidden City, a sprawling mass of open spaces and immense pagodas. Sacred Way, with the huge carved animals and figures that line the road to the gateway for the Ming tombs. And of course, Peking, a city with enormous public areas for the millions of people and their bicycles, being the main form of transport, as private cars are an extreme rarity. From mainland China back to Hong Kong, where the Star Ferry is probably the cheapest and most reliable mode of transport in the world. Here in Hong Kong, tailors work non-stop preparing suits and garments which are made in just 24 hours. The Sung Dynasty Village, a recreation of a 2,000-year-old way of life in the heart of the city. highlights of Hong Kong must be Aberdeen, with its floating restaurants and a chance to ride in a sampan and experience a totally different lifestyle. The sights and smells will remain with us for a long time. By sheer contrast, we were taken by limousine to the annual World Cruise Society dinner, and we were greeted by the president of Cunard Line, Mr. Ralph Barner, who had flown in from New York to be host of this special occasion. The meal was superb and the speeches greatly appreciated. Cabaret followed, and we danced the night away to a wonderful orchestra. Who could ever forget those flower vases made of ice? Breathtaking. Back at sea, and we have plenty of time to browse through the QE2 shops. The selection was very varied, and we all bought souvenirs to remind us of the voyage of a lifetime. Some of us bought some fairly expensive ones too. Harrods of London have a shop on board and were always busy. The smell of fresh flowers greeted us every day, and they were there for all occasions, as was the ladies' salon, again always busy. It's comforting to know that the hospital on board QE2 is probably the finest afloat, the envy of all other ships. 2 doctors, a dentist, 1 medical petty officer, 2 hospital attendants, 1 physiotherapist, and of course 4 nurses, cater for the every eventuality in the superbly equipped hospital area. The service was typically efficient and caring. QE2 enters the port of Keelung, Taiwan. It's just a short drive to the nation's political, economic and cultural center of Taipei, the capital. Here the National Palace Museum houses the largest treasure trove of Chinese art in the world. And not to be missed is a visit to the Martyrs' Shrine to see the strict routine of changing the guard every hour. The Chinese architecture of the Grand Hotel is well worth seeing. Time to lie on deck and watch the world go past. Ah, those long, hazy days at sea. Busan, Korea, and a spectacular welcome always awaits the QE2. Taking the toll road to the area of Gyeongshu, we pass farmlands, farmhouses with blue or green tiled roofs, grouped in small villages. The 6th century tomb mounds, Tumulus Park, Asia's oldest astronomical observatory, the cave of Sakuram, the Buddhist temple of Pulgaksa, and homeward bound, the United Nations Memorial Cemetery. A fascinating, warm and friendly country. Japan and the QE2 calls at Kagoshima and Yokohama. The sightseeing possibilities of this fabulous country are endless, from a ride on the bullet train to the beautiful shrines and pagodas in Kyoto, to the traditional puppet shows, the giant hanging lanterns of Asakusa, the Ginza by day or night, Tokyo Tower, the giant Kamikura Buddha, or beautiful kimono-clad girls, tea ceremonies, Sakurajima Volcano and Iso Gardens are just a few well worth the visit. Back at sea and time to visit one of the popular bars. There's certainly a variety of choice on board, from the theatre bar to the midships, from the double down aft to the club lido. Have your normal drink or be a little adventurous and have the cocktail of the day. Nighttime falls and dancing to Mick Urry Band with Brenda on vocals was always great fun.
Hello friends, I think I have the right to address you that way because throughout the many years I've had the honor and privilege to play for you with my orchestra, it is really wonderful to see people, all of you, from all parts of the world, all here for one great reason, to enjoy yourself on the world's greatest liner, the QE2. Bless you, and don't forget, always stay in the mood.
Joe Loss, the famous band leader, now over 70 years old and as young as ever. He's on his 11th world cruise, a fantastic achievement. And until you've danced to his marvellous orchestra, you just haven't lived. After nearly 4 days travelling across the vast Pacific Ocean, QE2 docks in the port of Honolulu on the Hawaiian island of Oahu. At the famous Polynesian Cultural Centre, the Dance of the Longboats displays a colourful variety of dancers from around the islands of the Polynesian Basin.
Do not mistake this as the hula, no. In Hawaii, this brings our passions about to do swimming. But before you go on, I'd like to find out, have you enjoyed yourself without salute?
Apart from those fabulous beaches, one of the most popular tourist attractions is Sea Life Park, where dolphins perform energetically. And here this young lady can be seen riding on the back of a killer whale. As the day draws to a close, the giant Pacific rollers break onto the beaches of this surfer's paradise, and the setting sun drapes the backdrop into a magnificent amber hue. It is no wonder that Mark Twain once wrote that this was the loveliest fleet of islands to be anchored in any ocean. On to Maui Island and the enormous Haleakala crater with the mysterious silver sword plant that only grows here. After more sun-filled, lazy days at sea, we arrive in San Francisco, the city famous for the Golden Gate Bridge, steep hills and crooked roads like Lombard Street. The Victorian houses on Nob Hill and in San Francisco Bay, Alcatraz, the former residence of a certain Mr. Al Capone. Fisherman's Wharf, a haven for the seafood gourmet. A fascinating, friendly city under a constant threat of earthquakes. Next on to Los Angeles, a brief visit, and some of us went to Disneyland, others to the Queen Mary. The last leg of our journey takes us south, down to Mexico, and into the fabulous Acapulco Bay. Time to see the famous Princess Hotel and the death-defying cliff divers at La Quebrada. Once more through the Panama Canal, this time eastwards. Time to catch up on the views that we missed going westwards earlier on in the world cruise. Having left the Panama, we arrive at Cartagena, the bastion of the old Spanish Main, a city with a double life. There is the old walled city, a bustling metropolis of resort hotels, and the great San Felipe fort, built high above the city, for this was the center of the Spanish Main, and from here the gold that was mined in the Andes was sent back to Europe by the conquistadors. Entertainment in the large cinema showed the latest films as well as occasionally being used for theatre. Guest lecturers such as David Susskind, Terence Stamp, the well-known actor, John Briggs, the concert pianist, David Brenner, comedian and TV host, our cruise director and head of entertainment on QE2, John Butt, the fabulous Rita Moreno, the Stutz Bearcats, certainly different. Peter Gordino, singer and dancer with the Peter Gordino Dancers. Roy and Jackie Toduff, always popular. The fancy dress competition always amazes us with the sheer imagination of our fellow passengers. For example, Dr. Harry Glassman, who for the past few years has always put a fantastic effort into his costumes. Well done, sir. The final World Cruise Society cocktail party. A chance to say thank you to the ship. A chance to say thank you to our entertainment hosts, and a chance to hear the captain say his final farewell before the end of the cruise. Onwards to our last ports of call before Fort Lauderdale and New York, San Juan and St. Thomas. A chance for some last sightseeing, and don't forget the final duty-free shopping. This is the last world cruise before the QE2 has a major refit, with new engines being installed next winter at a cost of 120 million. Time for us to reflect on past cruises, the oceans we've crossed, mainly smooth but sometimes rough, the exciting ports we've visited and the spectacular welcomes we have received. The Pacific, with Alan Wicker watching. The ship has changed its colours, but its heart remains unique. There is only one QE2. Now its traditional colours prevail. Time to reflect as well on the guests we welcomed who entertained us so well over the years. The incomparable George Burns, the great Jack Jones, beautiful Diane Carroll, the Platters, Max Bygraves, Frankie Vaughan, Dom DeLuise, Maria Neglia, Iris Williams, the QE2 dancers with all their routines and fabulous costumes. Time to remember some of our previous captains and their senior officers. Time to remember some of our previous guests, without whom the whole purpose of the Q2 would cease to be. The friends they made will last the rest of their lives. The memories they take with them, which are unique to the Q2, they will hold dear to themselves for a long time. This year, Cunard Line celebrates the 50th anniversary of the maiden voyage of the Queen Mary. The ship was honoured to receive Her Majesty the Queen Mother on board to help celebrate this event. Here, Sir Nigel Brokes, Chairman of Trafalgar House, greets Her Majesty. A great lady visiting a great ship.